This question says, you strike me as someone who has a very rich creative nature, and thank you so much. That means a lot to me. I was wondering what your creative expressive pursuits are and how your spiritual life feeds that. It's an interesting question to me because I do all kinds of arts and crafts and some painting and some different kinds of things. I'll actually try to put some photos of some of the things that I've created here. And for me, the creative process is actually very spiritual because of it's multidimensional, and some parts of it are very meditative to me, and sometimes just the process of conceiving something and then trying to manifest it physically or to create something that never existed before. A lot of times I have a lot of insights during that process, and for me it's the process itself that is that's important. And so yeah, that's a great question. Thank you so much. Where were you born? And if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you want to live? And last question, what do you love the most about following the Wiccan path? I was actually born in Kentucky, in Covington, Kentucky, and we never lived in Kentucky, actually. My parents' doctor, when I was born, he actually operated out of Kentucky, and we lived in Ohio. But when it was time for me to be born, they just went across the river there, the Ohio River, to Kentucky, and I was born. But we always lived in Ohio. If I could live anywhere in the world, where would I want to live? It would be in one of the countries that has achieved marriage equality. Somewhere like the Netherlands or Denmark, and sometimes I think about Canada too. Canada is a beautiful country, and it might be more realistic if I were actually going to move to another country to go to Canada. Of course, our family and friends and everyone are here in the United States, and it would be very difficult for us to just pick up and move to another country. But Canada would be the option, I think. That's where I would probably opt for if we ever get that opportunity. And what do I love the most about following the Wiccan path? I think it's the fact that I have a direct experience through Wicca of the goddess and the god, and that I experience a transformative power and a sense of love in my rituals and ceremonies and in my everyday life as a result of being Wiccan. And it's not about listening to some kind of minister or something telling me what I should believe, but it's about what I actually experience and what I find within myself. And Wicca encourages that. It encourages us to find our connection within us instead of just blindly following what some leader might tell us to follow. And that must be the number one thing about Wicca, I think, that I really, really love about being Wiccan. It's a great question. Do you follow any particular branch of Wicca, and if so, what is it? I'm actually a solitary eclectic Wiccan, and over the years it's become kind of a mix of traditional Wicca, which I did research, at least as far as the published materials are concerned, and the reclaiming tradition, actually, and I will try to put a link to that below. But it's a mix between the two. Like, for example, when I'm casting a circle and inviting the elementals to and the watchers to watch the circle when I'm casting it, I usually use the traditional Hail to the Guardians of the Watchtowers, etc., and that kind of thing. But when I'm actually in the body of the ritual, I might do something that's very free form and very spontaneous. I do have set rituals in my Book of Shadows that I follow and use as a guide, but it is a mix of traditional Wicca and reclaiming Wicca. Those are the two things that influence me the most. It's a good question too. This one is, do you believe in other gods or goddesses, and if yes, why are there so many of them? I'll try to answer that. I hope I understand the question correctly. I believe that all gods and all goddesses are aspects of the divine. And I think that there is a plurality of them because I think that nature loves diversity, and I think that there's no one anthropomorphic form that can express the divine in all of its completeness. And I think it takes many, many forms in order to even come close to expressing divinity. Um, but yeah, I think that's why. It reminds me of a quote I read, and I think it was in the beginning of Kabbalah Unveiled by MacGregor Mathers, and his wife actually had wrote the introduction to the edition that I have. And she actually addressed part of that, and she said, for the adept, there's very little difference between a unity that functions through plurality or a plurality that functions as a unity. And I tend to look at it that way. I tend to think that in practice and in reality, there's very little difference between that. So that's a good question. This question is, will you write a book someday? And this is actually from Kit. And Kit, of course, knows me better than anyone in the world. And of course, I love him with all my heart. And yeah, I think I will try to write some kind of book someday. I really would like to. I've always wanted to write. And I write periodically different things. I think the greatest challenge for that, for me, is that a lot of times I'm all over the place, and I have a lot of different interests, and sometimes it's difficult to maintain a focus on one thing and to actually come through with writing or producing a manuscript of some kind. But yeah, that is something that's a goal of mine, and I will eventually put together some kind of manuscript that I publish. I don't know what form that'll take or what that'll look like, but that's something that I intend to do at some point. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you, kid.